Hello and welcome to the Walk and Love podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Brooke.
And today we're going to talk about emotions, feelings, the structures you build around your heart, and so much more. Oh, that was a
solid snap.
Solid snap.
It had some echo between these walls.
So,
oh, I don't have that. I only have my notes. Wow. Sorry, guys. Here we go.
So here's the thing. Last time I read it, or last time I talked about the book first, and then you were like, we should have read that first. And then, but now.
Yeah. You didn't share these with me, so I'm looking at my own notes.
Yeah, my bad.
Which we titled similarly. So I think maybe we thought we shared. Welcome, everybody. The Walk and Love podcast is a weekly conversation between TJ and I, TJ Mousetis, Muh-see-tis, about emotions, rhythms, marriage, parenting, and faith. It is a place where we laugh and sometimes cry as we try to find language to live a joy-filled life.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for making us a part of your week. Today's sponsor, and if you're wondering, if you're new here, our sponsors are us. So we just like to share ways that you can support the podcast.
They were just really aligned.
Yeah,
with the values of these sponsors.
Sometimes I don't align with some of the sponsors on just like how I'm feeling that day, but we'll get into that. So today's sponsor is our live coaching and classes launching this Thursday. Something that we dabbled in last year real briefly. I will be teaching 2 classes this year. One is called the T-shirt Academy. It's your one-stop place to learn about all things in terms of launching your own apparel business. We've been doing this for 17 years or something crazy like that. And so it's a place where I teach all the things that I know. And really what it does is it saves you time in Googling and testing and making mistakes and all that kind of stuff. So T-shirt Academy, we're gonna launch a new class for that because I've already taught it once. And then a new one that I'm launching is called Launch Party. It's Lanch Party, Kevin. Would that really be better?
Would it really be better? Lanch Party, Kevin?
I should have put that sound in.
That's okay.
Launch Party will be similar to T-shirt Academy, but minus the apparel stuff with more of a focus on content creation, launch strategy, and just how
e-commerce Shopify.
How to build an e-commerce store on Shopify. So those 2 classes will be launching Thursday, as well as one that Brooke will be teaching, which I'm super stoked about. We've narrowed down the names.
Yeah.
But we don't have the perfect name. So we're just going to tell you what the class is going to be about. It is the main focus of this class is going to be on how to prevent mom burnout, which I think is something that moms deal with.
Really?
Just a teeny tiny bit. So those classes will be launching on Thursday. And the cool thing, one of our favorite things about teaching these classes is that we don't just like upload videos to a like e-course platform. We teach them live. So we teach them over the course of a week, and it's an hour and a half-ish each day, Monday through Friday. Yeah. And we're live on Zoom. So we teach all the classes, and then we get to answer questions as we go. And so when I taught the T-shirt Academy, it was so great because people would raise their hand and be like, hey, you just said this, can you explain it a little bit more? And I was able to do that. So it's super cool, and it's very interactive. And then whoever signs up for the courses gets access to those videos if they want to go back and rewatch one, or if they miss one night. So yeah, we're super stoked on the classes launching this Thursday on our Instagram. We'll have links to all of them, details about what they'll be teaching, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that's a way you can support the podcast and learn.
Boom, boom.
Win, win.
Boom,
boom, boom, boom. Let me hear say way-ho.
Way-ho.
Okay, so we have a very dense episode today. So if you pass me the book, if you're watching on YouTube, we are going to spend the next few weeks going through the book, The Voice of the Heart by Chip Dodd, which was written in 2001.
I was a freshman in high school. Like 8th grade into then a freshman. Yeah. Like over that year.
I was going to be in 10th grade, like 9th into 10th grade, depending on what time.
Spring of 9th and then fall of...
Yes.
No. Yes, 10th.
Yeah, for me.
That's how school works.
Which is crazy. Like, think about how much our lives have changed since then.
Wow.
Obviously, like we got married and, have jobs and kids and moved and bought houses but like...
I don't wear tube tops anymore. So a lot has changed.
Whoa. Tube tops.
Well, like Right? Isn't that what they're called when they're like strapless?
Jeez.
I don't mean like
Brooke
belly tube
Renee.
top. No, never a belly tube top.
Wow, guys.
Just trying to think
Just
of something that's
unpacking
really
layers
changed.
of the onions of Brooke. But yeah, like when we read this book, so much of it is just like amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a very dense episode today about this book. If you didn't buy the book or haven't read it,
That's okay.
because I think we'll talk about it in a way that, you know, like we talk about all the things that we read and etc.
But there is still time.
There is
especially
still
if you're
time.
mainland
Yes.
Amazon Prime.
We've ordered our 2 books and they are still not here because we wanted to start fresh because this one has been like, you know, highlighted. Now there's like 6 different colors of highlighter in there to try to keep track of what's
highlighted
when. But yeah, excellent book, one that I plan on reading every year. And as we started this, I barely got through the preface where I was just like, I think I have enough to talk about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The other thing, but so we're having a dense episode today. But before we get into that dense episode, Brooke and I have united in our strong feelings.
Yes.
They are strong and they're just strong.
They're very strong.
They're strong, like to the point where like
They're obscure and they're strong.
they're like, it's so obscure and it's like first world problem 100%, but it doesn't mean I'm any less passionate about it because we are on a break from our cell phones, which is funny. Like I'll sidebar a little bit. The first year we took off our phones, we talked about it every week. Like,
Talked about what?
being off our phones and how it made us feel and all this kind of stuff and what we were learning. And like, I feel like we've barely mentioned it in terms of like podcast. I will say this because we're starting back up in a few days from when we're recording this. By the time you're listening to this, we're back on social media, baby. I will say this, like, what's really cool about this, like it's a yearly rhythm that we've done and we've tinkered with it as we went. First year, my phone went into an envelope and I didn't open that envelope until February. Brooks had her phone on, but like deleted apps. The second year I deleted time wasting apps. And then the third year I was like, it's really obnoxious to like log back into these apps once they're gone. So I just deleted them from my home screen. So we tinkered with it a bunch of different ways. And this year we decided, hey, we're going to, spend 2 weeks here in January and 2 weeks sometime June, July, depending on schedule and when it works, etc. And so like that was, which I think was the right move because I feel like there's like a law of diminishing returns when you do this practice that like
over and over.
Eventually, like after 20 days, you're like, okay, like, I get it. Like I've kind of
not like I get it. I want to be back on my phone.
No, but just like I've learned.
You jump into the not using them so fast and quickly and happily.
Yeah.
That it's like, after a week to 2 weeks to like 20 days, it's not like I'm learning anymore. Yeah. The longer I stay off.
But what's interesting is like the first 3 years, the like main lesson and takeaway for me was like stillness, peace, solitude, calmness, just like being still and like slowing down and exhaling, all those kind of good things. And then this year, like, and it kind of surprised me in a good way that like these yearly rhythms that we practice, these intentional things that we put into place in our lives, while they start for a specific reason, like the specific reason was like, I feel like I'm too distracted all the time. I need a break from that distraction so I can actually like think clearly and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And then year 4, I feel like I've learned the complete opposite of what I learned the first 3 years. That's just like, okay, you don't have your phone. Now it's time to get to work. Like you think your phone was for work, but actually your brain is for work.
Whoa.
And so and so instead of
good brain.
And so I have a caption for it on an Instagram that we're coming out with on Monday. That's like, instead of just like this long, windy road, slow drive, windows open, super calm, chill moment, I've felt the last 3 times. This time it's like, instead of that long, slow drive, it's like the Lord has given me a roadmap for the year ahead. And it's like, we've gone into like planning mode. My word for the year is activate. And I just feel like, man, I am pumped up and I feel more energized at the beginning of this year than I ever have before.
Yeah.
And it's cool to me to like associate with that with a practice that I thought was always going to be the same thing. I thought it was
Yes.
always going to be like calmness, stillness, and if I hadn't started 3 years
It's growing with you.
yeah, and if
Yeah.
I hadn't started 3 years ago, what would this 2023 season feel like?
Mm.
And also, if I hadn't started 3 years ago, I don't think we'd live here. Like, there's so much.
Oh yeah,
You
there's
know,
a very, very solid chance. That's
and
true.
so, yeah, I just like, I'm like ready to rock and roll,
I love
baby.
it.
Activate.
Anyway,
Anyways,
strong feelings.
my strong feelings are because of, this is a long way to the well. Because we don't have our phones, we've been using our iPads for most of the stuff that we need
Which
to
let
do.
me pause. I use my iPad all the time. I often do not know where my phone is, like ever,
Yeah.
because I use my iPad. It is like my home.
It's like your home phone. Home phone for texting.
It's my home phone. I text from it. I do all my emails from it. I schedule things from it. It's just like, it's kind of like a laptop, except that I like that it's not a laptop.
Yeah.
So I have felt this for a long time, this strong feeling, but I've never voiced it because nobody else is using an iPad as much as me.
So I've
Until
started
now.
to use it as an iPad. And you know, on your phone, when you swipe down from the top right corner, it gives you some options. An alarm, a flashlight,
Camera,
camera, timer,
do not disturb.
all this kind of stuff. On your phone, there's this really great button that looks like a calculator.
Mhm.
And you click it and you can do all.
You punch all the buttons.
Oh.
Not working.
Not
Click,
working.
click, click.
Okay. Are any of my sounds working? Oh no, something has happened to my soundboard.
Oh no. Is it plugged in?
Yeah, it's plugged in. Maybe the source files have gotten moved.
That's what
That's
happened.
probably what it is. Anyway, so I go online, I go click, click, click. I go on my iPad, I go on my iPhone, I go click, click, click. I'm doing math like nobody's business.
Yeah.
I'm doing
2 times
subtraction,
4. It's just
addition,
like anything.
division, multiplication,
Fractions.
sort of. I go on my iPad to do the same thing. No calculator.
No calculator on an iPad.
I can't.
That's fine. We'll just download an app that's
just
a
download an
calculator.
app. Except all of them are just full of ads and garbage. And
I'm not kidding. They don't even work.
And so those are my feelings, and Brooke, those are our feelings, and we are united as one
Yes.
in them. That like, come on, now.
Why?
Why
Why not have
no-
a calculator app?
I'm actually doing more like
Calculatory things.
calculator things on my iPad than I would ever on my phone.
Yeah.
'Cause
So
it's
then you think it's fine. I'll just download the calculator app.
They
Doesn't
don't have
exist.
one. So those are my feelings.
So if you're an app developer out there, make a great iPad calculator. You're going to make millions.
See, but make it that I can go here. I need it to go here.
But that's your Apple.
But maybe there's a way to do it.
OS,
We're gonna
right?
get some messages that are like, what you could do.
You can
is-
toggle on the calculator.
I don't see that as an option.
Okay. Control center.
Okay.
Okay.
So those are
Anyway,
my feelings, and they're strong.
They are strong.
Strong feelings.
Huh.
Okay, so let's get into it, Brooke. Did anything
Okay.
happen this week? No, we're fine.
No.
You're fine.
I read
we're
this
fine.
book.
We read this book.
I played Bunko.
Oh.
Okay. Apparently I joined a Bunko night. I did get a text about it.
There was some confusion in your joining of this group.
Yes. Which I haven't communicated to any of them. So this is all brand new information. But I got a text, hey, a Bunko group is happening. You need 9 people to play Bunko. So it's like they need 9 people to show up every time or you
Yep.
can't play. Do you want to do it? Blah, blah, blah. Here's the dates, whatever. I got a different text about joining a Bible study thing with a whole
Brooke
long
is
list of dates
very popular.
on the same day. And so I was like, this is a lot. I don't know what to do. Should I do both? They're different times. Blah, 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 blah. Went through the whole thing. Decided if I had to choose, I was going to choose the like small group Bible study vibe thing.
Because you're a hella Christian.
That, and also I thought, hey, maybe I'll have something to talk about on the podcast.
Okay, can I pause?
Yeah.
Can I insert something into the story?
Sure.
So during this text message of getting invited to all these things, I am in like activate mode
Yeah.
of like, this is the year. We're planning the rhythm out in detail so that my wife can thrive.
Mm.
And so if you're watching on YouTube,
YouTubes
here is a look at our weekly rhythm schedule. It is color coordinated.
in a calendar.
Everybody has
In a
their own
digital
color.
calendar.
And it can be tinkered with, and there's blocks for time for do things. And so like, I think because you were getting these texts, you were like even more heightened to like, this is going to change the rhythm. My color blocks will change. We'll have to put this in. And so that's sort of
I did
like,
get the text a little bit before that. And so it was like, I don't want to give away evenings multiple times a month if we're not going to be functioning.
Yeah.
Like, I need to know that we're going to be functioning, and then it's cool if I go to this. Anyway, so what I thought I said was
To Bunko.
Bible
study, you're all in.
Bible study, I'm all in. I said yes. And to Bunko, the text was something like, I had follow-up questions. And within those follow-up questions, I said, but if you want me there, I'll join. I'm all in. And then I said, but blah, blah, I forget what my questions were. And so it was like, because I ended with questions, I thought it was more of like a hold, please.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, I get a text, Bunko.
Tonight. Tomorrow night.
And I was like, all right, note to self. Added to my nice little weekly schedule. Watch YouTube videos on how to play Bunko.
Turns out Bunko is
it's really easy. It's not hard.
Rolling dice. But you had a ton of fun.
It was fun.
So
I didn't
Brooks
win
and
any
Bunko,
prizes, but
we're already talking about merch, the Bunko babes. So coming to the shop.
Fuzzy dice for everybody.
New merch is fire.
Yeah.
Smash the subscribe button.
Anyway, that's really my only update to the week.
That was.
Other than reading this book.
And we have visitors here.
Mm-hmm.
Brooke's friend from 4th grade and her husband are here.
Yes.
For their 15-year wedding anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
She's known this friend for 26 years.
I have.
Which is just
Which
wild
was crazy.
To do that math.
Too bad we didn't have our calculator to do that math.
Yeah, not on the iPad. Okay, so Voice of the Heart, written by Chip Dodd. We told you to read, where did I put the link?
The preface and the introduction, right?
And I think that there might have been, hold on, let me.
No. We weren't supposed to read an actual emotion, were we?
No, preface through the 8 feelings, which is the preface, the introduction.
Oh.
And then the like.
Sorry, what is this paper doing?
Because these are some extra notes. I was taking so many notes.
Oh, wow.
Wrote them on paper. I got them on the iPad. Anyways, we have plenty to talk about. So, and there is no way we will cover, especially because like the first 3 chapters are so dense with like setup. I actually think we'll have an easier time covering the emotions and talking about the emotions as we get through them. Mm-hmm. But the first few chapters
I didn't read chapter 2, the 8 feelings.
Okay.
I only read the preface, the intro, and the spiritual root system.
My bad.
So that's as far as I'm prepared today.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
I mean, it's more than enough.
Because we could have read the preface and had it. Like the balance is like, we don't want to be in this book study for 15 weeks of the podcast. Yes. And so like we're trying to condense and do some things. And so what do you want to start with?
Okay, well, the preface. And let me say that the preface here, and obviously if you've read it, great. If not, you follow along. He's basically saying like, I wrote this in 2001. Yep. This is the 2nd edition of this book. And so he just, as all that time has passed, he just has some thoughts about how like this book still holds true and it still supports the gospel and truth, but it's like such a powerful, powerful tool. And so the book, I'm just going to like literally skim the things I've highlighted in the preface and then we can jump into it. But,
okay. Can I interject something?
Sure.
Hit songs of 2001.
Oh.
Hanging by a Moment by Lifehouse.
Hanging by a moment.
Fallen by Alicia Keys. All for You, Janet Jackson. Drops of Jupiter in her hand, yeah. What?
Yeah.
If you're watching, Train didn't just come into the studio.
Right. I saw Train live. Fantastic.
Okay.
Fantastic.
I'm Real, Jennifer Lopez featuring Ja Rule. If You're Gone,
I don't know that one.
Matchbox 20. Let Me Blow Your Mind. Gone. Eve featuring Gwen Stefani. Thank You. Dido. Remember that song? Again, Lenny Kravitz, Independent Woman Part 1, Destiny's Child.
Part 1.
Those are the top 10 songs of 20.
Wow. I think I know all of those except maybe the Jennifer Lopez one, but I'm sure if I heard it.
Let me jump down to number 12. It Wasn't Me by Shaggy. That was our first dance song.
So inappropriate, but not our first dance song.
No.
Okay, so the book as a whole is like it's we're attempting. I think my posture and even wanting to read it, like why would I want to read a book like this? Is that like I'm truly hoping to discover, and these are his words, rediscover the doorway into how our hearts were made. And like, that is it. Like, I know that there is so much depth and goodness in knowing ourselves better and like differentiating between like self-help, internet, self-love, know yourself, follow your heart, like that, like shove all that aside to an actual God who created us with hearts, with emotions.
Like truly stepping into sort of the secret place of
Yes.
like where God
Yes.
will
Absolutely.
communicate with us.
Yeah. And so I highlighted, actually you highlighted and then I re-highlighted. So
And then I re-highlighted.
It's a very weird amount of colors. The book's material does not change you. Only God can change you,
Yep.
but it aids us in becoming more present so we can experience deep change.
Yep. The book is a tool, and it's really like, and this is how I was like, I actually wrote this down. It's like when we talk about the voice of the heart or the Enneagram or the chair behind or the 15 minutes at the end of the day, what I picture is like, okay, I have this communication Nerf gun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is a Nerf.
Yeah. So
Nerf
this is
gun?
how we're
I thought
going
it was
to
a tool belt.
No, this is a new language. I have communication Nerf gun, and like by itself, I'm not very good at communicating with you. Like some
Right.
people's Nerf guns might be better and bigger, or like just work better.
Okay.
But mine, on its own, just the way that I learned, or the way that I grew up, or whatever,
All
whatever,
the things combined.
all the things. It was hard for me to communicate about the deep emotions in my heart. And then I found the chair behind. Add an attachment. Oh, this gun works a little bit better. It's got a sight or whatever.
Okay. I'm following the Nerf gun.
Add the 8 feelings. Another attachment.
They're not balls inside your Nerf gun?
No. They're just attachments to allow, they're attachments that increase my ability to communicate. Like it's just getting better.
Okay.
Again, Nerf gun is just something that I thought of.
Okay.
But it could be anything. Like it could be tools, like a tool that you use and it comes with all these attachments. And at the beginning of
Mine is like a nicely organized tool box.
Yeah. And so like what's cool, like especially specifically with the 8 feelings, like in the voice of the heart, is like the chair behind is like an attachment to get to that most.
Yes, because that's what we're always trying to say.
Minimal
What's all the way in the furthest
all the
chair
way
back?
back?
It's going to be one of these 8.
Yep. So
Yeah. So it says feelings ultimately are tools we have been given to live fully in a tragic place where wonder and tragedy, great loves and great losses intermingle. Our lives cannot yield fully to the eternity we envision in this finite place. But feeling our feelings allows us to keep heart in the struggle of living fully, loving deeply, and leading well a life worth living for ourselves and with others. So, mega circled, feelings are tools.
yeah.
They are.
And that's what I'm saying. It's
And to me, a tool is not neutral in its impact, but it is neutral in its like moral judgment of good, bad. Like, and that's, I feel like so much of, I think we're coming out of this culturally a little bit, maybe too much in some weird ways. But like, you know, I feel like people really used to shame their kids and themselves for feeling, don't feel that.
Yeah.
Don't feel mad. That's bad.
Yeah.
Instead of like, no, my feelings and body are trying to tell me something. Now, what I do with the consequences of acting upon those things, those are not neutral at all.
Yeah, like later in the, I don't know which chapter it is, but this is what I typed because I was, instead of just highlighting, since we only have one book, I was trying to type out stuff.
Yeah.
He wrote, feelings are not impulses that need to be controlled. They are tools that we need to learn how to use well so that we don't behave impulsively and act out without the ability to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's what we're doing as parents is we are like, I think in previous generations, it was like, no, that feeling is an impulse. Anger is an impulse. Shut it down.
Yeah.
And now what we're trying to do or trying to learn how to do is like, you can be angry, but that does not give you the right or the excuse to smack your sister in her face. Like the anger is not.
Anger is not the issue, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, it's the.
And so
action that follows being angry.
When that anger is boiling in your heart, what decisions are you going to make? Are you going to act like it's an impulse and slap your sister in the face? Or are you going to...
It's trying to tell you something. And as we read this book, you'll figure out what anger is trying to tell you.
So can I start somewhere? Because like I feel like if we're... Or do you...
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I mean...
So, you know, it's so dense, and I've said that a bunch of times, but it's like really hard to like just... If you're not reading it, to like really kind of understand the depth and the wisdom that he's sharing. But one thing I heard Chip say one time is, and he said it in a video, God is so invested in the heart, that's where he put the Holy Spirit. And like to think about the gravity of that is really sort of incredible. Like, you know, we talk about a lot of things and God looks at the heart. you know, and understanding our feelings leads us to being fully present human beings.
Yeah.
And so that's why Brooke and I spend so much time talking about like language and emotions and all this stuff. And so what's crazy is like before we started rereading this book for this episode, I was telling Brooke that like usually when we go into integrated, when I go to integrated, Jeremy asks, do I have anything to share? Like at the first lesson, I think it's because I've been there since the beginning and I'm a natural encourager. And so lately I've been having this sort of, I don't know, vision, metaphor, language tool of just like, okay, like picture your heart and all the feelings that you have inside of it. And could you read out the 8 feelings?
Yeah. Let me get there.
Because I just want you to like sort of visualize this. If you're driving,
Okay.
don't close your eyes.
The 8 feelings: hurt, lonely, sad, anger, fear, shame, guilt, and glad.
Yeah. So those are like, so if you're like, the analogy he uses is like the primary colors are, what are the primary colors? Red.
Oh yeah, I have this written down.
Yeah.
Red, yellow, and blue.
Red, yellow, and blue. And every color that you've ever seen has come from those.
Yeah.
And so.
And we don't negate red, yellow, and blue as being simplistic or not enough.
Yeah.
Or any of that. We're like, no, that's really all it takes.
Yeah.
There's 3 of them.
And then he talks about music.
Yes.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
8 notes.
8 notes.
Yep.
Have created every musical piece you've ever listened to.
Yes.
And there's barely repetition.
Right.
And so why do we have no problem accepting that?
Right.
But then when we talk about feelings, we want to add all of these other feelings to the list. And that's not bad. Like, I'm not saying that like the music that someone makes from all the 8 notes is bad compared to this person. They're just different. And it's like, if we feel frustrated, well, that's I'm not negating that, but there is something in the chair behind that leads back to one of these 8. And once you have the language and the understanding of yourself and your heart to know that, you can so like frustration is a great example. Like, are you frustrated because you're angry? Are you frustrated because you're hurt? Are you frustrated because you're lonely? and so
he's lonely.
Having the ability to understand that about yourself gives you the ability to communicate well with others. Because like I've had moments where I'm like, I'm annoyed. And people would be like, oh, he's feeling annoyed. And it's like, yeah, we can say that, but that's not the true.
Yeah. It's not what it's stemming from completely. Yeah.
And so like, that's why I love the chair behind. And I love the combination of these two together is like, now I have the ability quickly to get to Brooke. Like when we were traveling for Christmas, I was explaining some family dynamics and like the root of it was hurt.
Yeah.
I was hurt. And because I can tell Brooke that I'm hurt by that, she can have compassion for me. We can talk about it. And I'm not just living up here surfacely being frustrated.
Yeah.
So,
and me being like, hey, you're frustrated a lot. Stop.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But if you're not communicating about it with your spouse, you can get to that point of like, can you just stop being annoyed?
Yeah.
And then it's like, that's a really not very compassionate thing to say.
Yeah.
If that annoyance is rooted in like something way deeper.
Anyway, so I've been thinking about this thing to share it integrated, but I'm going to share it here first. And it's like, okay, you think of those 8 feelings, read them one more time.
Hurt, lonely, sad, anger, fear, shame, guilt, glad.
And we all feel those deep inside of our hearts. And like our hearts are where we have feelings and emotions and like make up who we are, like obviously your mind and your body do as well, but like your heart is where you feel. And so I think something that a lot of us do, and to some degree this is okay, but to I think most of the degree this is not okay. Everyone does it. We build structures around our hearts.
Yeah. Walls.
And so some of us build homes. So I'm going to explain a few scenarios. Obviously this isn't all encompassing, but these are just some general examples. Some of us build homes with windows and doors. And, like I have a door that I can open up to Brooke and say, I was hurt by that. Like I'm going to let those feelings out. So like a lot of us are building structures to kind of keep those feelings in. And like, that's what we do as parents. We try to build structures around our kids' hearts so that they can live in the world that we have. Like they're
right.
like we provide guardrails.
I hope we're modeling the appropriate structures
Yes,
to build.
exactly. And that's
for boundaries and things.
exactly.
Yes. We're not building them around their
No.
hearts.
But like you're modeling because your kids are becoming who you are. And so you're trying to model a way to like, we can talk about fear. We can talk about anger. We can talk about loneliness. We can talk about these things. And that's okay. We don't have to. So like, hopefully you're building a nice, beautiful house around your
heart house.
heart that has windows and doors to all 8 feelings. It's an 8-bedroom house.
Nice.
And hopefully every bedroom has a door out. Then there are some of us who have built houses that are only 5 bedrooms. And so we have we access 5 feelings very well, or well enough to have a window or a door. And then anger is bottled up in the basement,
Locked away.
And so we don't feel that, or we avoid that. And then eventually we have an aneurysm or what, that kind of stuff can actually start to affect you physically.
Yes.
And then some of us have built safes. Like, I'm going to keep all these feelings safe from everybody else.
And yourself.
But what you end up doing is building a prison for your feelings.
Yeah.
And you never let them out. And so you never fully live with a heart engaged with those people around you.
Yeah.
And so I've been sort of like unpacking this metaphor or this language, I've just been thinking so much about like, okay, what does my heart structure look like? And again, like and here's my hope that the structure that's built around my heart with I'm interacting with Brooke is doors open, windows open.
Yeah.
I want you to fully know me. My heart structure when I'm with God is like, I want to tear down every single wall and I just want to be fully known and loved by you and seen by you. And then it's like when I'm at checkout buying something, I don't need that structure fully open. Like there is a reality to like boundaries, or if I have like a tense relationship with a family member, I don't need that structure fully open because there might be pathways to really hurt me or injure me in terms of emotions and feelings. And so like, I'm not saying like we should always be like,
I was going to say the goal isn't like to burn the house down and just be open all the time.
But I do think most of us live with structures that are too tightly shut, specifically around our spouses or our kids or the people like parents or whatever.
Yeah.
And that causes us to sort of like, it causes our heart to harden, because like, if you look at your heart, it's like, again, I'm just using the metaphor of a heart, not your actual physical heart. But like, if you look at your heart and like cut it up into 8 pieces, and it's like, if all those feelings are allowed to be felt and talked about and worked through, etc., your heart is fully alive. But as we build structures around parts of those,
let's say all 8 sections are beating.
Yes. But then like, let's say we suppress loneliness to a fault, or gladness. Like some people suppress being happy, or joyful or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, those parts of our heart can become super hard and rigid, and like there's no life there.
Yeah.
And so we end up doing that over years and years or decades or whatever, and then we die a curmudgeoned old person with a hard heart. And like, that's not what the Lord wants. That's what the devil wants. He wants you to live with a hard heart for all of your days. But what the Lord wants is a heart fully alive, fully able to be present, because understanding our feelings leads us to being fully present. And when we're fully present, we have eyes to see what the Lord wants us to see.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like, again, there's a lot, so much information in here, and we didn't even read one of the chapters. Whoopsies. But that's sort of like the language and the thoughts that I had as I was reading that, like, if I had to boil this podcast episode about this first part of the book down to one thing, it would be, what structures are you building around your house? What structures are you building around your heart with the people you are intimate with?
Yeah.
What do they look like?
Yeah.
And honestly, like, if it would help,
they're there. And
yeah,
so I think
there.
step 1, acknowledge that they're there. And what do they look like?
And what's crazy is like,
or what do you want
Brooke
them
and
to
I have
look
been
like?
married 13 years. And like early on, my structure was mostly closed off. Like access to gladness, no problem.
Yeah.
Maybe access to some anger, that would happen. Hurt, talk about it here and there. But like the other things I like didn't even know how to talk about. And so it's like through this process of like asking God to like soften our hearts, asking the Holy Spirit to like reign and rule, and then like having language to talk about these things deep within us, I feel like my structure has become much more open, and
Yes.
there's a lot more windows and there's a lot more doors. And it's like,
Honestly, it's like, we're getting like kind of dorky into the metaphor,
Yeah.
but like,
let's go there, babe.
let's go there. Dorky metaphors are my jam. Yeah, I feel like, and because so much of your windows and doors are open more, like there is a nice breeze going through, and it all just flows more smoothly, more openly, more generously, and it's very impactful on
like
your life and the lives of people around you.
It's like that moment when you go from winter to spring and you're like, it's nice outside. Let's open all the windows.
Yeah.
And you get a breeze going and you feel like, oh, this isn't just like recycled.
Maybe I'm going to clean a few things up,
Yeah.
because it's like, that feels really nice.
And so as you develop the ability and the language to talk about your true feelings, that will happen in your house more frequently, which then gives you the confidence to make better decisions with ease, because you know what the root of that decision is.
Yeah.
And you know like why that decision has to be made. And it like takes away some of the like, I don't know, frustration or back and forth. So
Yeah.
that was my main takeaway.
That's awesome. I have two smaller, but two takeaways. One, at one point he's talking about, I'll actually just read it and then say my thoughts. In the journey of life, there are two roads. We're familiar with this, right? Two roads.
Two roads.
But it's not the road you think. Here we go.
Okay.
One road is well traveled as it is. Keeps us in the existence of survival, never fully knowing ourselves, never fully knowing others, never fully finding the abundant life for which we were searching. Anyway, we spend our existence toiling to make life happen, and this is a little dark. All it gets us is a grave, a marker, and a date. But he's like, this is the road. There's two roads. This is the road, well traveled, but where so many of us live.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says the other road leads to full life. It's not the metaphor of, here's this road that's well traveled, let's take the path less traveled.
Right.
It's smaller and winding and an adventure that's off the grid. That's not what he's saying, because that's what we hear. And I'm like, I don't want to be off the grid. That sounds scary.
Yeah.
I don't want the road less traveled necessarily in the typical sense.
In all things. Yeah.
In all things of like, there's two roads in the woods, or two paths, or whatever the poem is. And so
you nailed it.
I nailed
Whatever it was. I don't think people need
Ralph
to look it up.
Emerson the Ninth, Franklin
Esquire,
once said,
after a night of bunco,
he wrote in his journal, so one road.
Dear Diary, bunco was fun. Oh no, Dear Diary, how are you? I'm good.
I'm good. I was at bunco. Were you there? No, you were in my drawer. In the journey of life, there are two roads. One road, well traveled, keeps us just existing, surviving.
Yep.
The other road leads to full life, a road along the heights that is rough going, yet joyous and full. This is the way of the heart. On this road, our hearts become clarified, freed, and made new. And so I just like that really stuck out to me, because we are very familiar with there's two paths.
Yep.
Which one are you going to take?
Yep.
And I just loved that it wasn't a matter of like the one everybody's doing or something no one's done before.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not the decision. The decision is like, are we going the way everybody's going, the well-traveled wide path, or are we going the way of a full life? That's the crossroads you're at.
Yeah.
A full life with a full heart, or I'm just going to survive.
It's crazy. As you were saying that, this is what I'm picturing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picturing this. Well, for some reason, I'm in the forest.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I'm there too.
This well-traveled like dirt path, you can see the trail very easily.
Yeah.
But I am actually not picturing it as like you're going to go left or right. What I'm picturing is like they're side by side, but they just gently drift.
They gently
apart.
fork. Yeah.
And so like there's a point in your childhood where you make that decision.
And you're still pretty close to the other
Still
one.
pretty
as you
close,
learn.
and you're still and so here is where I think like what this book has done for us, and what we're hoping it does for you, and what we hope the podcast does for you in terms of like giving you language, is like, if you're on this well-traveled road, and if you're watching on YouTube, this is more helpful. And this road is like slowly drifting apart. And as you get older, I think it drifts apart further and further and further. What we're
There's
hoping now that if
that
you are in your 30s or in your 20s or maybe in your teens,
you're talking about crossing this jump, making the jump is less of a gap.
There's less of a gap in, like, you're going to have to navigate some woods.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go through some brush. You're going to have to figure out how to get from the well-worn path to the path of full heart living life. Mm-hmm. And as you get older, that navigation is going to get harder and harder. Mm-hmm. Still can do it.
Oh yeah. But I think it's a further distance to travel.
God can do all things, and he can help you navigate through that path. And so what I feel like happens is we start to decide early on, like most of us, almost all of us as kids decide, hey, we're going to go down this road because this is safer, defense mechanisms, all those kind of things.
Or it's what's modeled, what's modeled for us.
And then
so we don't even know we've chosen it.
We're like, oh man, I've strayed from who the Lord has created me to be. And we make an attempt to travel through the woods to get to this heart living path. Mm-hmm. And there are times where like we get halfway and we turn back, or we get 3/4 of the way and we turn back, or we get on the actual path, walk a few months, and then revert back. Because what I feel like is it's easier to go, it's hard to go this way. It's easier to go back this way. And so what we hope to do here, and what Brooke and I have been working on in terms of our own personal lives and walks with the Lord, is like we want to stay on that full living path. And do I do it always? No, there are definitely times where I wind my way back to the well-worn path. But then I know that it's always worth it to like have the harder conversation. And sometimes I feel like what I do is like, I've kind of created a path in the middle, like where I'm like, I've got one foot on each. Mm-hmm. And so like, but that's how I picture it that like, which path are you on and how much woods do you have to go through to get back to the like heartful life? And honestly, the thing that was so helpful to me in doing that was like that advice Josh gave us at Integrated. The first taught, like the second session at Integrated was like, at the end of the day, ask your wife their most positive emotion and their most negative emotion. And
which we've even changed a little, because I don't think this is what he meant, but I don't love the idea that emotion is negative.
Yeah.
That like it's a bad one.
Yeah.
But I know what you're saying in terms of like descriptive.
Yeah.
Battery, positive, negative vibe.
and so when we now do this with our kids, we call it peaks and valleys. But we tried, it's not like my valley was I skinned my knee. My valley was I skinned my knee, which hurt. And that like made me feel hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
it made me sad. Yeah.
But I remember, it made me sad. I remember those first few times with Brooke, and I've talked about this before, of just like feeling like, oh my goodness, there's so much like trees and thicket and like that I have to go through to like even say this stuff, that it was like difficult. And as we practice it over and over again, I realized, okay, like chair behind, there's a machete, a tool that I can use to kind of cut through some of this stuff to get to the path.
Yeah.
And that the early work, I mean, it's always hard to like really get to the deep feelings of your heart.
Yeah.
It does. I feel like it does get easier as you practice it more. It's a muscle.
Lots of muscles, but it does.
But I remember early on, and we had a lot of people at the live event kind of ask like, how do we do this better? And it was like, well, you just do it.
You just keep doing
consistently.
it. Yeah.
And like,
because it's not that like, if I'm grieving something now and something else happens in the future, I'm not saying my grief will necessarily be easier, but the process of accepting it, working through it, talking about it, all that kind of stuff gets easier. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say it makes any of the emotions less intense,
right?
Necessarily. Okay, so the second thing before we wrap it up.
That's good. I love that sort of path.
Yeah. I've never thought like, oh, it's this path or the path of a full life. It's always been well-traveled or less traveled. Yeah. It's always what always has been presented. So then speaking of the woods, so he talks about, he's developed like the spiritual root system. And if you're on YouTube, you can see this picture of this little tree, and it's this nice, healthy tree. And it's got like 5 big roots coming out of the bottom for the sake of the drawing. You've got one that's your feelings, one that's your needs. Then you've got desire, longings, and hope. And so throughout this book, he has drawings of a tree that is like really healthy, has deep roots, really big canopy, super great. And then he shows like an impaired tree, like something that's not growing as well, not as healthy. And so while I love this very, very much, I, again, was kind of struck by the tree metaphor as a whole, a little more deeply. And so, I desire to be someone who is deeply rooted. And now I have the language to be like, well, I want to be deeply rooted in these 5 things: feelings, needs, desire, longing. So I want to be able to know that, talk about it, feel like it's deep. And so I was looking up because I didn't know. I was like, I know what I think I'm about to say, but I'm going to actually Google it. And so recent studies have shown with trees that typically, for the longest time, it was believed that a tree's root system never went any further than the drip line of the tree. So like you've got the canopy coming all the way out, whatever that drip line is, like it's going to be almost equal, like the roots underneath and what you see above. And it's now been shown that they can grow up to 3 times the size of the canopy of the tree. And so I was just thinking about trees the other day while I was reading this, and how 5 times the radius of the canopy. I said 3 times. Wow. That roots grow very slowly. It's not flashy. It's not fast. Right. They're not fun necessarily. That they grow very, very slowly. They're deep. They're not really public. It's under the ground. It's in the dirt work. Mm-hmm. And I desire to be somebody who has deep, deep roots, so that my tree that is above ground, my interactions with people, the way I'm parenting my kids on a daily basis, all that kind of stuff of life, that my tree is very healthy and very strong and bears fruit and leans into the seasons and drops leaves and branches when I need to, and prunes. We could talk about gardening and stuff, metaphors like that forever in the faith world, because it's so helpful. Accurate. But as I get older, to continue in a tree metaphor, hopefully not in real life in my body, to grow upward and outward. Brooke was talking about, I think, some of her goals for the new year just to get bigger. No. To grow upward and outward my tree, so that I won't be as easily shaken. I won't be as easily pushed around. Yep. I'll know myself, my tree, if you will, better. Yeah. So that when someone's like, you should hack that off. Why are you doing that? I'm like, no, I've put a lot. This is here. This is me. This is blah, blah, blah. When I picture the image of old grandma me, it's going to make me emotional.
Should.
As a big, healthy tree, I really do, intentionally, actively hope that I am healthy enough in all ways as a grandma like that my family wants to come sit in the shade, that I am a safe place that they could climb or play. I mean, it's why the Giving Tree will get you every time, the kids' book. You're like, oh, sure, we can read that. And then you're literally weeping by the end. The kids are like, I don't get it. But I do desire that. And so this book is helpful because, this book is only about one of the roots in with the guy who's made it, his root system. But I really got thinking about that. Yeah. And am I doing things? Because it's small things that add up. Small things
over long
periods of time that make up who we are and who we want to be. And so what am I doing? Am I taking care of the tree? And am I naming the fact that so much of the work has to be done underground and in the dirt? Mm-hmm. It's the long conversations late at night. It's the crying in the shower. It's the healing through prayer with a friend. It's all these things that aren't just scratching it on the internet and because that's what people do. Mm-hmm. Look how pretty my tree is. Look how tall it is.
Yeah.
I'm okay, well, cool.
Yeah. So Chip, the other day I was we were reading this book. Brooke was reading, and then I was I needed to catch up. And so I started reading it. I was I wonder if he has any videos on this stuff.
Right.
So I click on YouTube. Found
Google, does Chip Dodd have videos?
Yeah. So went to Googled YouTube, clicked on YouTube. No, I do not want to sign up for an account. Log in. Forgot my password. Clicked on
Reset a
Google.
password. Hey, Brooke, can you text? Did YouTube send you a code?
But I was trying to watch this video, but like all the neighborhood kids were kind of playing outside. One needed a Band-Aid. Sonny stepped on a thorn. There was like moments where I was like, oh, I don't know why I'm trying to do this right now.
Yeah. Solid point.
But I watched enough to hear him like mention a few things. And he's like, and that's where he mentioned God is so invested in the heart. That's where he put the Holy Spirit. Understanding our feelings leads us to being fully present. And then he mentioned Jeremiah 17:5-6, and then started talking about like the difference between a juniper bush and an oak, and how a juniper bush like grows straight up and provides no shade. And its roots are very thin and they like kind of take over and like are not good.
Yeah.
So I just read Jeremiah 17:5-6, which says this: thus says the Lord, cursed. Like, again, I'm taking these notes, not really like, I'm like, okay, that's good. Oh, sorry. Like just again,
Band-Aids are in the cabinet.
Yeah. But for some reason I wrote that down.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And so I just read it now as you were talking. It's like, thus says the Lord, cursed is the man who trusts in man and makes flesh his strength, whose heart turns away from the Lord. He is like a shrub in the desert and shall not see any good come. He shall dwell in parched places of the wilderness in an uninhabited salt land. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord. He is like a tree planted by water that sends out its roots by the stream and does not fear when heat comes, for its leaves remain green and is not anxious in the year of drought, for it does not cease to bear fruit. And so it's like when you look at those two pictures.
That's super cool because we did not talk about our notes between the two of us.
Yeah. And so, yeah, like I agree, like you want to provide shade. You want to be, and I think providing shade is an element of just being fully present.
Yeah.
And to be fully present in your lives, in the lives of your kids, in the lives of your spouse, in the lives of your parents, in the lives of the neighborhood kids that run by and grab juice boxes from the fridge. Like to be fully present, I need to understand my feelings. I need to understand my heart. I need to know what structures have built there and whether they all have doors or windows.
Yeah.
And so as we dive deeper into those 8 feelings, let us start there. Let us start with the honesty of what structures have I built around my heart, specifically with the people that I should be,
that are the closest to you,
that should
often
really,
in proximity of
that
family.
should have open access. What does that look like? And
that would be better off if they had open access.
And how can I go from this path well traveled to the path of full heart living?
Yeah.
What do I need to do? What hurt do I need to face? What loneliness do I need to talk about? What sadness am I carrying? What anger do I just clench my fists over?
Yeah.
And like, how am I going to cut through the thicket to get to the path of full living? And like, I hope that at the end of this book, we give you some tools to do that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we've been doing that over the past 3 years, and life has been richer and full. It hasn't been easy. There haven't been, we've had heartache and frustration and stress and anxiety and all those things. But when we get to the root of that feeling, we're able to talk about it in a very healthy way. And so like our hope and our goal.
Get to the root of the feeling.
Yeah.
I see what you
Our
did
hope
there.
and our goal is that as you read this book along, and again, buy the book, $14, and that
Buy a highlighter if you don't have a highlighter.
buy a highlighter for sure, maybe 2.
I will say that, like, side note, game changer. Reading books with highlighters.
Absolutely.
I used to be like, oh, don't dog ear it. Don't, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I don't know if somebody told me that or if that was just like, don't mark up your book. What if you need to give it away? Or I'm like, no, this is my book and I want to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
When I started highlighting what I read,
Game
game
changer.
changer.
Would use the sound, but something's wrong with my computer.
Yeah.
And so like as we talk about these feelings and unpack different parts of this book, let's move from the path well worn to the path of full living.
Awesome.
Go
team.
Awesome job, babe. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making us a part of your week and listening to the Walk in Love podcast.
Okay,
I love you. Bye.